G'day, punters. Here we are. It's Everest time, big time in Sydney, $20 million Everest, and who other than the great David Gately to get in and have a chat all things the Everest. G'day, Gator.
Hello, mate. Yes, what a race this has become. I think when they first found the concept, I don't think any of us, even then, probably imagined how big it would be. It's probably our second or third greatest race already, isn't it?
It's enormous, and it's a really good point you make. I may as well segue straight into that. Where would you have it? You said, in the top three, where would you have it comparatively to a Cox Plate or a Melbourne Cup?
Yeah, it's right on the podium. I think with those two races, probably sitting bronze, just because of the embryonic stages of it. But I mean, the reality is, we talk about the race pretty much from the end of one year to the start of the race the next year. So it's been great for our sport. It's been great for the younger demographic as well, and obviously turnover. So hat tip to all involved.
Yeah, it's huge for turnover, isn't it? Because there's so many lead-up runs. We know the runners are locked in so far out, and fans of racing get behind horses, which you don't quite get to see as much in the Melbourne Cups as you do as you did in the years gone past. But now I think that's a big part of what makes the Everest such a great success. Mate, the barrier draw was conducted on Tuesday night. There was a few really good draws for some horses and a few so-called bad draws. I Wish I Win was a horse that's been on everyone's lips. Draws barrier one. What are your thoughts on I Wish I Win, just in regards to a speed map and a barrier? Is that a positive or a negative for you?
Yeah, look, I don't have any major knock. Obviously, what we'll know by race 7 on Saturday is how the track's playing. Last time they raced at Randwick, we had an on-pace sort of inside advantage day with a rail true. I can't remember the last time that's happened. So it's been a long time, at least to my anecdotal evidence. So that caught a few of us off guard. So with the rail just edging out a fraction, I just wonder if that inside will still hold up. Look, I think the thing with this horse is, assume the track's playing evenly across the board. I don't think it's any negative. I think what the advantage he's got is he quickens into gaps. I went back and looked at his Sandown race where he was held up. It's the only race I can remember where he's held up at. That's why you never saw Maccabi Diva, these sort of horses in the stewards report for bad luck, because they quicken into those gaps. I think he's got that trait.
Well, that's a huge plus for I Wish I Win fans, and that's a big push there. I like that. It'll be interesting. So you've got a horse like Overpass that is no doubt going to go for drawn barrier 2. Do you see any other horse contesting the lead, or do you think Overpasses and Josh Parr's sort of race to lead?
No, I think if I was in the Mazu camp, my best chance of success would be to go forward and hopefully sit up second, and maybe put the acid to Overpass. Right on the turn or before the turn. So depending on how they're running it along. But look, the reality is when everyone's looking at the same speed map and the same data, things can sort of change up on the day. However, a lot of those horses at the top of the market just don't have the early toe of an Overpass or a Mazu. The other one's probably Cylinder, who could posse right there without wanting to lead outright.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And the race is worth $20 million, of course. It's an enormous carrot, the $7 million for first. But in saying that, there's also a really big carrot for second, third, and fourth. And if you are a horse that does have a bit of early speed, you might want to, but just not enough. The question that you've got to ask yourself is, do we want to buy a horse up? Do we want to use all the carrots early and potentially run last, or are we happy finishing second, third, or fourth with such a big prize there?
Yeah, no, it's a really valid point. And it's like, you've just got to know what your limitations are as an athlete. I mean, I can relate it to any sport, but certainly something like a triathlon. If you go too hard on the bike early, you're not going to finish the run. So you've got to know your limitations of each individual athlete, know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and use that to your advantage.
Love that. So that all said, now we've dissected some of the key runners there. How do you see the race shape and speed map come Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I think, I have Overpass leading Mazu and Cylinder, probably top 3. I don't think about it, we want to be too far away as well. Not sure what they do in secret can be there. So as far as tempo goes, I'm expecting them to go just below sort of Group 1 standard, 12 first 600. Probably between 1 and 2 lengths below that. I don't think Overpass is a sit and then dash. I think his best chance of success we saw in the Quokka was to still run along at a solid enough clip. That's his best chance. And we just spoke about, riding each athlete to their best traits and their best chance of success. So that's the way I'm reading it, but, been wrong before.
Yeah, well, you're spot on. I think that is the key here, and you've got to ride each athlete, each horse to its full potential, and Overpass with the one out in front. I do have queries myself going through the races to who's actually going to take it up to Overpass. The biggest challenge that I see here is that a horse is going to have to drag them up to Overpass, and that horse becomes quite vulnerable. Who's going to be the jockey that wants to do that? Is it a natural wheeler on Private Eye? We know he's ultra aggressive. Is he the one that's going to make the first move? If you were the jockey that had to make the first move, which horse would you want to make that first move on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if that's what you're trying to, if that's what the hand you're forced to be dealt, you're probably looking for a horse that can sustain speed for a decent period of time, aren't you? So that brings in a horse like I Wish I Win, who's been so brilliant at 1400. So he's got a bit more of that endurance aspect to his arsenal than perhaps a horse like Bonus Notches. I mean, even Private Eye has that as well. But a few of the others are probably bottoming out at the end of 1200, aren't they? So, but an interesting question, and they'll all have a plan, and then they'll need a plan B come Saturday, I think.
So, Gator, there's a couple of horses that might be able to apply a bit of pressure to Overpass on turning for home as they hit the rise. Two of those, namely Hawaii 5-0 and Alcohol Free from the all-conquering Waterhouse Watts stable. We saw Hawaii 5-0 jump out of the ground last start off at the first start run. Do you think we see something similar from Alcohol Free? And which one of those two can prove the biggest threat to the Everest?
Yeah, look, Hawaii 5-0 was very good last time, wasn't he? Ridden colder. So I just wonder if that's in the back of their mind rather than trying to go back to what was less effective prior to that. But he does seem quite multi-dimensional, so he could be one that can put the acid on earlier. Alcohol Free was just okay first up. She wasn't bad, but she wasn't great. So she has to improve a couple of lengths in a pretty short space of time. I know overseas ratings are high. Take that on board, but it seems too short a window for mine, a too big a leap to make, if you like.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And there's a couple of horses that sort of fit that mold. Marzu here off a long preparation. He's up against it himself, and there's a few horses up against it this time around. But look, we're here for one reason and one reason only. That's to get David Gately's tips and best bet for the Everest. Can you give us a rundown of your top four and why, Gator?
Yeah, look, I think Bonus Notches is the one that's over the odds in the race. He was, in my very humble, the best run in the race. Second up, he was back up to 1,100 metres, which didn't really suit him. The tempo wasn't overly there. He was held up. In Secret was out before him, yet he still powered to the line. Sectionals were outstanding. And now he gets back out to 1,200. His win fresh was amazing. He's got to form all the right horses. Private Eye, Giga Kick. I think Quinella the race last year. So I think he's a silly price, but a race we can make a case for 8 of them without even thinking. I Wish I Win, certainly my, part of my 2-bet strategy. We've touched on him, and he's got a seat at the table as our best racehorse. Espiona's my third pick. Ridden cold, powerful finish. He runs the last 600 metres that's reserved for Group 1 horses. And I think Overpass and Shinzu next, that can be competitive, probably just getting run over late. So that's the way I'm looking at the Everest this year, and I'm happy to play around those top 2 and maybe 3 with Espiona.
Love it. And for all the punters out there that want to get your work, it's thegreattipoff.com. Search David Gately and subscribe. Real simply as that. Anything at Caulfield for us, Gator? Any opinions on the Guineas?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty keen on Militarised. I think this race has evolved in recent years. When I was younger, it used to be a good roughies race. These days, it seems to be the best Sydney horse just comes down and wins it. And he's that. So he's got a mathematical rating edge on his rivals. He might just be better than them. So made him the best for the day. In fact, big 10-race card, Caulfield.
Love it. No, back in your day, it is your day, mate. You're low flying. I was speaking to a fellow mate of ours, Gareth Hall, earlier on, and he suggested, he goes, mate, if you've got one question for Gator, it'll be, what's he using on his face? Because he still looks young.
Stop it. No, he's kind of him to say, but a brown paper bag is the answer. That's right.
Super stuff. Well, hopefully our brown paper bags are full of cash after we follow Gator's tips. Gator, all the best of luck for the Everest and Caulfield Guineas weekend. It's going to be enormous. Probably one of the best weekends of racing we have all year. Look forward to it.
No, great. Thanks for having me, and good luck, punters.